So, the last month of preparation had passed. It was the time for the UA general entrance exam. Izuku and Bakugo took a train to the UA campus. Izuku's eyes got large at the sight of the campus. Look at it, Kakin. So many first-class heroes once walked these halls. It's so amazing. Tone it down, nerd. Remember why we are here. Right, sorry, I'm just so excited. You're not the only one. The boys turned to see Melissa's shield come running up. Oh, Melissa, I was wondering if we would run into you. The blazing teen turned to introduce her to Bakugo, but the gruff boy held up his hand in a go no further motion. You're collecting fangirls now, Firefly. He looked at his friend with a slay smile. Does the Ice Queen know about her? Melissa smiled at the bomb boy. Oh, you mean Shoka? Yes, we met a few weeks ago. She is such a lovely person. Bakugo was confused by this, but ultimately decided he didn't care. He walked on toward the testing hall. Move, you two, or you'll get left behind. The three were ushered toward a large lecture hall. There they took the written exam. It was hard. The questions covered everything from basic hero laws to advanced hero mortality in action. However, Izuku felt he had passed by the skin of his teeth. After the tests were taken up, a new figure entered the room. He was a tall man with even taller hair. He wore a leather costume and had a strange device around his neck. What up, funky people? You have completed the first stage of our raid entrance exam. Now prepare for the real party. The physical exam. Oh my gosh, it's President Mike. I listen to his radio show every night. Izuku then went into a rant about how cool it was that all the UA teachers are pro heroes. Bakugo ended this with a shift slap to the back of the head. Shut it. This isn't the time for that. Mike then had a stack of handouts passed around the room. He explained that the test would be facing off against robot villains. Each one was given a point value based on their level of difficulty. They would range from 1 to 3. Their goal was to take out the robots and build up points. The examinees with the most points will pass. Each of your examinee cards you receive upon arrival will have a testing site listed. That is where you will report. Bakugo ground his teeth in frustration. They aren't making this easy. Izuku wondered what he meant. He looked at his own card and then at Bakugo's. Oh, I see what you mean. Our examinees' numbers are right next to one another, but we are on different testing fields. Probably a way to make sure we can't get help from our friends. Like that will stop us. Not a chance in hell. The two-fisted bumped then. At that point, a tall boy in glasses stood up. Excuse me, sir. Yes. Test taker 194-7382. You said there were 3 types of villains, but the handout lists 4. This is not a mistake we as exemplary students can accept from the #1 hero course in Japan. He then turned around and glared at Izuku. And you with the unkempt hair. Stop your fanboy ranting. It is distracting to the rest of us. Bakugo didn't like this guy. Shut it, you tool. Only I can talk to Firefly like that. You'll also like No Choice Villain. Deku by Magdalene Baxter. No Choice Villain. Deku 43.3K. 2.6K. Izuku Midoriya just wanted to be a hero. Unfortunately for him, life was about to get much more complicated. To protect the people he loved the most, Izuku would have to mind versus might. Without power we rise. BNHA Dark Fanfic by Hexx. Mind versus might. Without power we rise. BNHA 12.2K. 397. In a world where power defines worth, Izuku Midoriya was destined to be nothing. Quirkless. Weak. Forgotten. But fate is not so kind, and the world's cruelty only sharp. Quirky. MHAX Reader by Goldelix. Quirky. MHAX Reader. 1.1M. 45.5K. Continues in books 2 and 3. Y/N. Kayama is attending one of the greatest hero schools in the world. UA. The faculty this year consists of a variety of well-known U.A Academy Romance, Izuku Fanfic, by Dabi. U.A Academy Romance, Izuku Fanfic. 342K. 7.3K. Midoriya Izuku, the smartest student in U.A Academy and the top successor among the class, has no experience of being in a relationship or falling in love. Uraraka Ochak. New love? Izutoga by Wonton Soup. New love? Izutoga. 77.6K. 1K. Read this description. You will need it. Promise me. This is my first fanfic. Warning. There's mature content in here. The story is featuring our MC Izuku getting C. I Can't Lose You Again by Van_. I Can't Lose You Again. 2.6K. 51. Izuku was 7 years old when he left his old life behind. Katsuki was 8 years old as he watched, staring in shock as he walked away. 7 years ago, Izuku was Tak. BNHA. Izuku Todoroki. What if Izuku is a Todoroki? By Lawrencey. BNHA. Izuku Todoroki. What if Izuku is a Todd? 854K. 24.2K. An unfortunate accident caused Izuku Todoroki to separate from his family. After his disappearance, the family only grew colder. Shoto lost his twin and was trained. Mike waved both boys down. They returned to their seats. Thank you, examinee. Your point is taken. There are 4 villains listed. The final type is worth 0 points. You can try to fight it, but there is really no point. It is more of a trap we place to trip you up. It is best to avoid it and take out the other villains topping the charts. Mike then made a groovy motion and continued. With that explanation out of the way, get going to your testing site. And remember our school motto, plus ultra. The expression appeared on the monitor behind him. The 2 rivals wished each other luck. Bakugo told Izuku he better pass, or he would murder him. Izuku promised he would see him at UA. A short while later, Izuku found himself at the battle site. He was surrounded by over 100 test takers. Many of them had special gear to help with their quirks. Izuku had no special items. He had changed into a special combat suit Endeavor had provided to him. It was made of a special material that could withstand high heat and resist fire. That way he could use his full power without incriminating his clothes. That had happened a few times during training. The suit was nothing special. It consisted of an armless blue shirt with a high collar. A pair of light brown cargo shorts covered his bottom. Finally, a pair of blue combat sneakers covered his feet. The teen looked around. He felt something strange pull his attention around the crowd. His sight landed on the people. The first was Melissa's shield. She was wearing a pink tracksuit. On her arms and legs were what looked like metal bands. He figured they were some kind of support item. They probably let her use her full power more easily. Next, he saw the tall, stuffy boy. He was chugging orange juice. Finally, his eyes were pulled toward a short girl with rosy, red cheeks. She was taking deep breaths, trying to calm herself. Understandable. Even Izuku was eager to get going. Just as that thought crossed his mind, the gate to the battle stage opened. Izuku took off into the battle stage through the air. Melissa was right behind him, running at top speed. Everyone else just stood around looking dumbfounded. Get moving! Everyone looked up and saw President Mike standing over the gate. There are no starting sounds in real combat. Get to it. At that point, everyone took off running. Izuku flew over the stage to find his target. He quickly found 3 bots, 2 1-pointers and a 3-pointer. He created 3 large fireballs and destroyed the bots. That was 5 points. He quickly found more bots and took them out. Once he saw a kid with laser power having trouble. He had taken out a 3-pointer, but more had rushed in to attack him. Izuku figured this was perfect to try that move. He flew down and grabbed the kid and got him clear. He then flew up and covered his body in fire. He then flew down and unleashed his fire on impact, sending a powerful wave of fire against the bots. They all melted from the heat. The wave almost got out of control, but Izuku just called the fire back to him. Almost lost it there, Izuku thought to himself, need to work on that move some more. If there had been more bystanders, that would have been bad. Izuku waved at the kid and flew off. At the same time, Melissa was using her increased speed to move through the battle stage. She found many robots and quickly dispatched them. During some of her encounters, she helped or saved other test takers. By her count, she was up to 45 points. A thought occurred to her. The test was combat-based. That would only get you the best fighters. UA's mission to make true heroes. She wondered if there was a hidden parameter or point system then. No matter what, she thought I'd have to keep going and behave like a true hero. Meanwhile, in a dark control sat 3 men. The first was Endeavor. He had asked to observe the test this year. As an esteemed graduate of the hero course, he was granted this. Next to him was a small ugly man. He looked like a cross between a mouse and a bear. This was the principal of UA Nizu. The last man was Toshinori Yagi, the hero All Might. Well, Angie, this is the first time you are attending this test. Are you enjoying the view? The man grunted at that. I see several good candidates. Most are just hopeless. Yagi spoke up at this point. So, Angie, why are you here? I thought your daughter had already passed the recommendation interviews. She did. I am very proud of her. She will be a great hero like her mother one day. I asked to come, All Might, because my nephew is taking this test. Nephew? Which one is he? Endeavor pointed out Izuku. Impressive, but he doesn't look anything like you. How are you related? We aren't. Not by blood. He is the son of MT best friend. He grew up calling me his uncle. I think of the boy as such. All Might could see the boy was powerful, and he was doing well. He was sure to pass at this rate. He remembered this boy from the beach talking to Melissa, but he also remembered him from somewhere else. His power and action hit him. He remembered a fire years ago. A small child held it back and saved a life that was dear to him. The tall man turned to the flame hero. Is that the same boy from the fire? The one you brought to Island? It is. Knees are broken at this point. Those flames. Is he related to Night Sun? The name hit All Might like a 100-pound sledgehammer. Night Sun. Yes, he's the only child of my dear friend, Izuku Midoriya. I see. He has a powerful lineage. I worked with Night Sun on several occasions during my early years. His power was impressive, but it was his heart that struck me. I didn't know he had a son. After what happened to him, the World Hero Commission buried the connection, felt it was the best way to keep him safe. Probably a good idea. Tragedy that never found the villain who killed him and his whole team. The 3 men held their heads in shame. Enji then turns to All Might. Yagi, if you're here, then you have chosen successor then. The last few years passed in front of the number one's eyes. All Might had decided that Melissa would be his successor after the fire at David's lab. His final battle with All for One had been the turning point. His terrible injury in the fight had been a blow. He was fortunate that Eri had gotten enough control of her rewind power to heal him up like new. However, he was changed that day. He and Naitai had spoken at length about choosing a successor. He realized now was the time. All Might have done great things, but he had put the world in a precarious position. If something happened to him, then the villains would just surge back in. He knew things had to change. So he brought Endeavor into this inner circle. As the most powerful hero besides him in Japan, he would be the one to replace him once his power was gone. Aizawa also came in as the one responsible for Eri. He then made a greater effort to prepare the world for when he was gone. The image of Melissa flashed across the screen. That is her. She has the heart of a true hero. So she is the one. I remember her. David Shield's daughter. Good choice. I see. So we have the son of a global hero, the daughter of the number 2, and the successor to One for All, not to mention young Eri. Looks like we're going to have a very interesting year. Indeed. All Might was in awe of the potential he saw here. Maybe these young people could finally create the world of peace and harmony he had always envisioned. Niza then took a sip of his tea before speaking. Well, we are at the halfway mark. Time to turn up the heat. A man at the control console hit a red button, and lots of lights began to flash. Back on the field, Izuku had gotten 58 points by his count. He landed and took a breath. He had 5 minutes left of the original 10. He still had time to get more points. Izuku. The boy turned to see Melissa's shield standing behind him. When had she gotten there? Her quirk must make her fast as well as strong. Interesting, he thought. Melissa, how you doing? Great. 57 points. That probably gets us enough to pass, but we should find a few more. Agreed. Suddenly the ground shook. The sound of grinding gears and scraping metal roared through the stage. Both teens watched as a giant shadow loomed over them. Several of their fellow test-takers ran toward them. One of them was the boy in glasses. "You two get clear. We can't deal with that monster." He spoke in a stern, almost lecturing voice. "Help me!" Izuku followed the sound of the scream. He saw the short girl from the entrance. She was trapped under fallen rubble. The problem was the 0-point robot was heading right for her. She would not be able to get clear in time. Izuku looked at Melissa. She nodded in understanding. "You're faster than me. Can you get her clear?" "I can. Can you stop the robot?" "I can, but it won't be easy." They nodded to each other. They ran off toward the danger. Melissa got to the girl first. She got her out of the rubble, using her strength. She was fine, but her ankle was horribly twisted. She picked her up and started to run her to safety. One problem was solved, but the robot was still closing in. Melissa could not run at top speed with the girl. That might cause more injury. It was Izuku's turn. He flew into the air and summoned his fire. His body glowed with the dark blue of his flames. He created a fireball in his hands about as big as a softball. He then focused all the power he had into it. The orb grew to over 100 times its size. Once he felt it was big enough, Izuku launched it at the bots. The powerful attack hit the bot. The force blew the steel skin off his body, and the heat melted the gears and skeleton. Izuku looked at the destruction with a smile on his face. He started to feel lightheaded. He had used too much power. He needed to land before he passed out. He touched down. Melissa came up to him and extolled his power. She told him the girl was fine. He smiled at that and then fainted. Melissa tried to stop him from falling, but pulled her hand away as Izuku was blazing hot to the touch. The boy hit the ground with a thud. An air horn sounded. Mike announced that was the end of the test. He then told them they would be providing medical treatment to those in need. A small elderly woman dressed like a nurse came onto field. There, children. You have all done well. Even if you didn't pass, you're all winners in my book." "Who is that?" a random kid asked. The kid with the laser power answered. "You are looking at a school nurse. That is the youthful hero, Recovery Girl. She is the only reason UA can hold such dangerous entrance exams." The doctor's coat-clad hero walked up to the pink-cheeked girl. "Looks like you have twisted your ankle, dear." She puckered her lips and laid a huge grandma kiss on the girl. Her ankle righted itself, and her breathing slowed to normal. "Miss, can you look at this boy too?" Melissa had picked up Midoriya and carried him over to the hero after he had cooled down. She laid him down in front of her. "This is the boy who destroyed the 0-pointer in one shot." She examined Izuku with a careful eye. "He will be fine. Looks like he just overused his power. He should wake up in a minute." Just like that, Izuku woke up. "What happened? Where's the robot?" He looked around. "I passed out, didn't I?" Melissa and the pink-cheeked girl were surprised by the rapid recovery. "Izuku, thank goodness. Are you okay?" "Yeah. Sorry if I worried anyone. Using that much fire at once tended to make me dizzy." The boy tried to get up and stumbled to illustrate the point. Recovery Girl handed the boy a candy bar. "Eat this. It should help." Izuku looked at the bar and scarfed it down. And it did help. He can now stand normally. "I'm glad you're okay. I'm Ochako Urarka, by the way. Thank you both for saving me." "No problem. Glad you're safe. All right, get going, kids. This test is over." Now came the hard part, waiting. Preparing for the test had been the easy part. This was torture. But finally it came. The plain white envelope addressed from UA. The blue boy went to his room and stared at the envelope. He knew he should rip into it, but he didn't for a long moment. The contents of this letter will change my whole future, he thought to himself. The boy thought of his mom, Shoka, his uncle Enji, and Bakugo. So many people had helped him to get to this point. Whatever laid ahead, he knew he would not face it alone. He owed it to them to be brave now. The boy tore open the letter, and a small metal disc fell out. The device projects a hollow screen into the air. "Yes, It's I, everyone's favorite man, bear, dog, mouse hybrid. But I am also the principal. Endeavor had told Izuku the principal wasn't human. He didn't tell him he was so energetic. Izuku Midoriya, it's my pleasure to announce that you have passed the written exam with flying colors. But you are probably more interested in the practical. You have also aced that with a whopping 54 villain points. Izuku was elated to know he had passed, but the film was still playing. However, we were not just grading you on your ability to fight villains. The Fire Teen had wondered about that during the test. He thought there might be a hidden scoring system. As you probably know, UA is an institution dedicated to producing great heroes. While combat ability is important, it's not the only important trait in a hero. That is why we rewarded rescue points to those who acted as heroes should. After all, saving people is a hero's main job. Made sense to the boy. You have also done well in that light. You scored an astounding 52 rescue points. That gives you the top score for the new first years. The screen changed to show the top 10 scores. Izuku's name was at the top of the list. Melissa came in second, while Bakugo came in third. The teen was happy to see his friends had also made it. The boy exited his room to find his mother pacing the floor nervously. He smiled at her, and she broke out into tears. She wrapped him so tightly that he almost broke his ribs. Later that night, Izuku called up Shoka. She was glad to hear he passed, though she said she would now not get to punish him. Izuku could tell she was over the moon. If she could have leapt through the phone and hugged him, she would have. She ended by telling him she would come over tomorrow so they could celebrate. Plus, Izuku told his girl he looked forward to that. With that phone call done, he laid in his bed, smiling wide. I did it, Dad. I am going to UA. I hope you're proud of me. Izuku awoke early on his first day of UA. He got dressed in his new uniform, ate his breakfast, and packed his school bag. His mom wished him luck. He then ran out the door to catch the train. He met Bakugo at the train station. The two rode in together. Izuku was unusually quiet on the way. Upon arriving, Bakugo had to know what was going on. So, where's the Ice Queen? I figured she would want to walk in with you. We talked last night and decided it would be best to keep our relationship quiet on the first day. We will have enough things going on. I don't understand you sometimes. Izuku, most guys would kill to have a girlfriend like yours. They would walk down the hallway with a bullhorn and announce it to the world. Still, it's your choice. Now what class are you in? My schedule says 1A. How about you? Same here. Good. At least I will have some competition. The two arrived at the door to the classroom. It was massive. Made Izuku wonder if they had giants here. Talk about a giant-ass door. Even your monster-sized girlfriend would fit through here. At the same time, Shoka had already arrived at school. She had met up with Melissa, who was also early. They were now in the 1A classroom. They had met several of their classmates. She even found out the other recommended student was a girl named Momo Yaoyorozu. She seemed nice enough, but a little serious. Everything was going well. All the students seemed nice enough, and no one said anything about her height or looks, though one boy with a lightning bolt in his hair did try to ask her out. She flatly turned him down. He looked kind of crushed at that. She wondered if she had been too hard on him. Then Izuku and Bakugo walked in. Bakugo took a seat at the front and put his feet on the desk. A tall boy zipped over and confronted him, telling him it was improper to put his feet on school property. Bakugo told him to get lost, but in more coarse language. Izuku pacified the situation. At that point, a bouncy brunette came in and seemed excited to see Izuku. This sight made Shoka's girlfriend's senses tingle. Who was this? Why so happy? Before she could get answers to this question, a gruff voice spoke up. If you're here to make friends, then you can leave. All of the students looked around to see where the voice was coming from. Finally, they saw a man in a yellow sleeping bag out front of the door. Had he been there the whole time? Shoka didn't remember seeing him. The man stood up and unzipped his bag. My name is Shoto Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. That floored everyone. This man looked like a sick hobo, not a hero. The surprises continued. Aizawa pulled a stack of gym uniforms from his bag. How he did that, Shoka had no clue. All of you put one of these on and meet me on the sports field. The pink-cheeked girl became very concerned. But, sir, the orientation, we're going to miss it. You don't have time to worry about that. Aizawa's voice was flat but powerful. You have 3 years here to become heroes. It's my job to see that you don't get yourselves or other people killed. The class became somber at those words. All knew he was right. So, everyone grabbed a uniform and went to get changed. Izuku and the other students assembled on the field. It occurred to the boy that there were only 19 students here, but there were 20 seats in the room. Was someone missing? Possibly, but he couldn't worry about that now. You'll also like No Choice Villain, Deku by Magdalene Baxter. No Choice Villain, Deku, 43.3K, 2.6K. Izuku Midoriya just wanted to be a hero. Unfortunately for him, life was about to get much more complicated. To protect the people he loved the most, Izuku would have to mind versus might. Without power we rise. BNHA Dark Fanfic by Hexx. Mind versus might. Without power we rise. BNHA 12.2K. 397. In a world where power defines worth, Izuku Midoriya was destined to be nothing. Quirkless. Weak. Forgotten. But fate is not so kind, and the world's cruelty only sharp. Quirky. MHAX Reader by Gold Delix. Quirky. MHAX Reader. 1.1M. 45.5K. Continues in books 2 and 3. Why Sajen? Kiyama is attending one of the greatest hero schools in the world. UA. The faculty this year consists of a variety of well-known H. U.A Academy Romance, Izuku Fanfic, by Dabi. U.A Academy Romance, Izuku Fanfic. 342K. 7.3K. Midoriya Izuku. The smartest student in U.A Academy and the top successor among the class, has no experience of being in a relationship or falling in love. Uraraka Ochak. New love? Izutoga by One Ton Suit. New love? Izutoga. 77.6K. 1K. Read this description. You will need it, promise me. This is my first fanfic. Warning. There is mature content in here. This story is featuring our MC Izuku getting C. I Can't Lose You Again by Vanna _ I Can't Lose You Again. 2.6K. 51. Izuku was 7 years old when he left his old life behind. Katsuki was 8 years old as he watched, staring in shock as he walked away. 7 years ago, Izuku was Tak. BNHA. Izuku Todoroki. What if Izuku is a Todoroki? By Lawrencey. BNHA. Izuku Todoroki. What if Izuku is a Todd? 854K. 24.2K. An unfortunate accident caused Izuku Todoroki to separate from his family. After his disappearance, the family only grew colder. Shoto lost his twin and was trained. Today's students, you will be taking part in a quirk assessment test. You have all been taking written exams up until now. However, the one thing you haven't done is truly push your quirks to the limit. That's what you will do today. There will be 8 tests that will give me some idea of your strength and where you need improvements. Several kids still look confused. Izuku understood. The tests were to give Aizawa a baseline of their development and what their potential was. Despite his looks, he was actually really smart. It seems some of you are still confused. Midoriya, what did your farthest softball throw in middle school? About 95 meters, I think. Aizawa threw him a ball. Try it now with your quirk. Izuku nodded at this. He wondered for a minute how he would do this. Then he felt the ball. Aside from the metal ring around it, which Izuku figured was some kind of sensor, he felt the texture of a chemical agent on the ball. He summoned fire in his hand. The ball sat in his palm but did not burn. It had been treated with something. Good. That gave him an idea. The blue boy took a deep breath and took control of his fire. He summoned it and surrounded the ball in a thin layer. Next, he wound up and threw it as hard as he could. When he released it, he launched the fire as hard as he could. The ball blasted off into the air and out of sight. Aizawa's phone displayed a reading of 710 meters. The class was awestruck. A pink girl with horns spoke up at this point. So, it's a physical test, but we can use our quirks. This will be super fun. Aizawa's eyes went red at that point. Fun, you say? Well, how is this for fun? The person who comes in last will be expelled. Many of the kids got panicked looks on their faces. Uraraka was the first one to voice what the others were thinking. But we just got here. You can't just send us packing after one day. It's not fair. Are earthquakes fair? Everyone got quiet when he said that. How about tsunamis or deadly villain attacks? This world is full of unfairness. It's a hero's job to combat that unfairness. Aizawa was silent for a long moment to let his words sink in. Here at UA, we are not bound to tradition. That means I get to run this class however I see fit. If you want to be real heroes, then show me your resolve. If the threat of expulsion is too much, then get out now. You don't belong here. And so the test began. Izuku, Bakugo, Shoka, and Melissa all did well. Their versatile powers gave them high marks in several events. Although Aizawa did have Izuku do several of the events twice. Once while he was flying, and once normally. He told him he needed a complete view of what he could do. Izuku understood and complied. After all the tests were completed, the scores were tallied, and the students were all nervous. Who was going home? Aizawa stood blank-faced in front of everyone. You probably have some idea where you rank, but here are the scores. His phone displayed a hologram before them. At the top of the list was Momo Yaoyorozu. Shoka came in second. Izuku, Bakugo, and Melissa all got in the top 10. Everyone looked to see who was in last place. It was a short kid with balls for hair called Minoru Mineta. The small boy began to whine that it was unfair. He hadn't even got to touch a girl yet. A strained concern, Izuku thought. Aizawa turned off the hologram. Oh, no one is getting expelled. Everyone was surprised. Several people exclaimed that he had lied to them. Aizawa got a sinister grin on his face. That was just a rational deception to get you to perform your best. Momo then spoke up. I can't believe you all didn't figure that out. Guess I should have said something. You can all get changed now. Make sure you grab a syllabus from the classroom and read it over before tomorrow. Dismissed. Everyone turned to do as the shadowy man said. Shield, Midoriya. The two turned to look at their teacher. Hang back for a minute. Aizawa pulled the two aside. Shield, I noticed you were holding back in the test. Your performance was not as dynamic as in the entrance exam. Sir, I still have a problem controlling my full power. If I were to use it, my bones would break. During the entrance exam, I had special support items to help with that. But for right now, they're being adjusted. I see. Well, that was proper thinking on your part. A hero with smashed up bones is of use to no one. However, get more control of your power and don't rely on the support items to save you. Yes, sir. I plan to. Good. You can go. I need to speak with Midoriya alone. The girl nodded and left. So, Midoriya, I was told that you are the son of Night Sun. Is that true? That was my father's hero name, sir. How did you know that? UA is the top hero course in the country. We have access to information that others don't. Plus, he was a graduate and a very good one. My uncle told me that, sir. You know I worked with the man once. You did? Yes. I was a young hero, fresh out of school. Your father and his team had followed a villain cell to a street gang in Tokyo. He led the raid but pulled several local heroes in for it. I was one of the lucky ones chosen. What was he like, sir? As a hero, one of the best. He set up the trap perfectly. He executed it quickly and quietly. No one knew what hit them. The gang was caught and very little damage done. It was inspiring. Izuku smiled at that. Endeavor, Ray, and his mom had told him what kind of person his father was, but none of them knew him as a hero. He worked aboard stopping villains all over the world, but very few clips of him were ever made. Many people idolize All Might with good reason. He's the top hero for a reason, but he's too flashy. To my mind, your father should be the model all heroes should strive for. Doing good work, not just chasing celebrity. A long silence passed. Then Aizawa continued. That being said, it would not polish his legacy if I went soft on you. After seeing today's test results, I expect great things from you, Izuku Midoriya. Don't let me down. I won't, sir. The tall man nodded and turned to walk off. Before he could, Izuku stopped him. Sir, there is something I need to tell you. He explained that he and Shoka were in a relationship. Aizawa listened as he explained. That's none of my business. But thank you for being honest with me, Midoriya. UA has no rules against such relationships. All I will say is don't let it get in the way of your training and schoolwork. If it does, then I will have a problem. Aizawa dismissed the boy, and he went to change. Izuku quickly changed out of his gym uniform. He and the other guys had gotten done before the girls and went back to the classroom to chill before going home. On the way to the room, Izuku saw Aizawa talking to a young girl. She seemed to be Izuku's age. She had a lean and athletic build, long periwinkle-colored hair, ruby red eyes, and a small horn on the right side of her forehead. She wore the same UA school uniform as the other girls. However, her sleeves were long. He found that strange since it was summer. She also wore stockings. Not that strange, many of the girls did. Izuku was most surprised by the fact that it was the same girl he had met at the restaurant after the slime villain attacked. He wondered what she was doing here. Then he remembered she had told him her last name was Aizawa also. It could have been a fluke, but he didn't think so. Bakugo saw the boy staring. Watch it, bud. Just because you haven't told anyone doesn't mean you don't have a girlfriend. Right. Look at her. Think she might be the empty seat? Probably. Wonder why she didn't take part in the test today. Aizawa probably has his reason, though what they are I do not know. Both friends nodded in understanding. They figured they would find out tomorrow. Until then, they headed back to the room. When the two got there, the great boy Mineta and the guy with the lightning bolt in his hair, named Kaminari, were having a conversation like old friends. So many cute girls in one place. UA is heaven. You know it, though some of them are kind of cold. Meaning, that white-haired girl, Todoroki, I asked her out and she turned me down. Scary. Well, what did you expect, Kaminari? She looks like one of those super elite types. Thinks she is above everyone. When Izuku heard that he wanted to flatten the great boy, but he had a better idea. He looked at Bakugo and got a slay look in his eye. They then had a silent conversation that went something like this. B, what do you have up your sleeve? I. Let's have some fun with these two. B, okay. I'll follow your lead. The pair walked up to their gossiping classmates. Hey guys, what are you talking about? The two turned around and greeted their classmates. Ah, the top 10 Dan to speak to us mere mortals. Ah, come on. We're classmates. Let's be friends. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and this is Katsuki Bakugo. Bagwo gave a loud grunt at that. The two introduced themselves. The two swore the friends to secrecy about what they were saying. They agreed. The conversation continued. We were talking about the girl with the white hair, the one who got in on recommendations. She is just too cool. Izuku then added, Really? She seems nice enough. No, dude. She turned me down and stared ice daggers at me. So cold. Maybe it was your technique. Bakugo stood there and listened. He knew where this was going and loved it. He did have to suppress a laugh. Think yourself a real charmer, huh? Mineta said indignantly. Bet you could do any better. How much? Well, the girl should be heading back soon. 10,000 yen says she shoots you down before you even ask her out. Kaminari added, I want some of this action. Izuku and Bakugo shared a silent laugh. The blue boy countered. I'll take that. But I will not only ask her out, but I will also get her to hug me. You two will then owe me 20,000 apiece. Kaminari and Mineta gotta look like they had just won the lottery. You gotta bet. Kaminari turned and saw the girl coming. Well, here she comes now. Get a Casanova. Shoka and the girls walked toward the class. She had gotten to know the girl who was talking to Izuku earlier. She seemed so nice and talkative. She explained she was thanking Midoriya for saving her during the entrance exam. That made Shoka feel better. However, She noticed that all of her classmates were very pretty. The jealous part of her brain suddenly worried they might make a move on her Izu. That could not happen. So, on the way back to the room, she told the girls about her relationship. They paused in the hallway, their faces stunned. This was followed by a deluge of questions. Shoka answered the ones she thought were appropriate and ignored the others. As the group approached the room, Ashido, the pink girl who set off Aizawa earlier, told her this was not the end of questions. Shoka figured it wasn't. The group walked into the room. The boys had split off into several groups. Shoka saw Izu and Bakugo talking to the creepy grape boy and the lighting kid. At that moment, Izu walked up to the group. "Ladies, is it all right if I borrow Todoroki from you for a few minutes?" Such a gentleman. Several of the girls commented. They agreed. Izu whispered in her ear for her to grab her books and meet him in the hallway. She did so. She sat her books on the ground. "What's going on? Can you help me with something? Does this have something to do with the grape creep and the lighting dope?" "Yes." Izu explained the bet. "So will you help?" "I can't approve of such underhanded tactics on our first day of school. However, everyone is to know about us by the morning, so why not?" "Really?" Shoka gave a smile. "There is something you don't know." She explained how she told the girls about them a short while ago. "I see. Good. I was not looking forward to having to wave girls off." "Is that so?" "I figure one of the best perks to us going to the same school is I don't have to explain I have a girlfriend. I just want to be your boyfriend." That touched the ice user's heart. "So what you need?" Izu explained. Shoka agreed. Now was the right time. Everyone was watching from the door. Shoka cleared her throat and spoke with a clear, loud tone. "Of course I will go out with you, Midoriya." She then reached down to hug him, so as not to press her chest his face, not in public. She then kissed him on the cheek to really drive the point home. In the doorway, the two boys' jaws dropped to the ground. Bakugo then collected the money from the two and hot-footed it out of the room. The girls were touched to see this, but all wondered why Kaminari and Mineta looked so horrified. Bakugo walked up to the couple. "I got your money, King. What's with the new nickname?" "That is what those two losers kept saying as I took the money. He's a king, a king." "All right." Izuku knew it was wrong, but he felt very proud of himself right now. "We should probably get out of here." "Not yet." Bakugo looked confused. "Why?" Suddenly a scream of indignation came from the room. The two boys had been told they were tricked. Izuku and Bakugo laughed maniacally. Shoka couldn't help but smile also. Her boyfriend was crazy. "Now we can go." "Wait, I didn't get a syllabus." Izuku handed her the paper. "My hero." She put the paper with her books and then laced her arm through Izuku's, and the trio walked toward the exit. A short while later Melissa joined them, and the group went to the train together. So, the second day at UA came. The class arrived in the room ahead of the bell. The girls were gathered around Shoka, asking her questions about the bombshell she dropped the previous day. Finally, Melissa Shield told the others to chill out. Meanwhile, Kaminari and Mineta were doing their best to give Izuku the third degree. Bakugo told the two boys to quit bitching. They got played, and a story. At that point, Aizawa forcefully slid the door open with a bang. "Once the bell rings, you should be in your seats." Everyone quickly took their seats. Aizawa nodded. "All right, everyone. Soon your normal classes will start. However, before that I have an announcement. Some of you may have noticed the empty seat in the room. It's normal for the two freshman classes to start out with 20 students. Your class is no different. However, her entrance to the hero course was unusual. The principal felt you deserve an explanation." The whole class listened intently as Aizawa cleared his throat. The man turned to the door. "You can come in now." In walked a 15-year-old girl. She had a lean athletic build, pale skin, light blue hair, and big red eyes. She had a horn on the right side of her forehead. Izuku and Bakugo recognized her immediately. It was the girl they saw Aizawa talking to yesterday. Looks like they had been right about her being the final member of the class. "This is Eri Aizawa. She is your final classmate and my daughter." The whole class went bug-eyed at this announcement. Aizawa had a daughter. None of them could believe that. She didn't look anything like him, they all thought. Aizawa drew their attention back to him. Eri's acceptance to UA was unusual. She didn't have to pass the entrance exam like most of you. She was here on special recommendation of the principal and staff members. Izuku figured she must be something special if she got in on special recommendation. Getting in on normal recommendation was hard enough. I was not going to tell you all that, but Eri insisted. She also asked that she be allowed to introduce herself and explain. Eri explained her story. She had been held captive by a terrible villain. He had experimented on her because of her quirk. He was rescued by All Might and a group of heroes from the villain. She was then raised at UA for a time to help get control of her quirk. She was then adopted by Aizawa, and he continued training her. The principal and the staff asked me if she wanted to join the hero course this year. She said she just wanted to learn to save people like All Might and Aizawa did for her. The class was silent for a long moment. Then they broke out in tears and screaming. They told her that was the most moving story they had ever heard. Ida stood up and gave the goofiest applause anyone had ever seen. They all said they were so pleased to have her in their class. Aizawa brought the outburst under control. He told them that classes would now start. Present Might came in to start his English class. And so the day went, then the afternoon came. It was time for hero studies. All Might entered the room and shouted, "I am here!" Coming into the room like a hero. Everyone rejoiced at this. They were all excited to see the #1 hero. The students couldn't believe he was actually teaching at UA this year. Melissa's uncle had told her he was going to be teaching at UA. His reason had been twofold. One, to allow him to keep a close eye on her progress. Second, to pass on his hard-earned lessons as a hero to the next generation. You newbies should best prepare. Your training starts today. The giant man pressed a button on the lectern, and several shelves emerged from the wall. These are your hero costumes, designed by professionals according to forms you handed in upon acceptance to UA. Now get changed and meet at ground beta for training. And so they did. In short order, the class arrived at ground beta. It was a mock city, much like the testing fields and the entrance exams. Izuku and the others wonder how UA could afford to build such elaborate fields. Must have cost a small fortune. They say clothes make the hero. You are all perfect examples of that. You all look so good. Izuku's costume consisted of a blue sleeveless shirt and pants. The belt had several pockets for medical supplies and equipment. He wore a pair of black gloves and a pair of black and blue combat shoes. These were designed to allow him to walk and touch things without melting them. When his power was turned to 10, it could melt the ground under him. The shoes did have a special function he wanted to test out. The rest of his suit was also fireproof for obvious reasons. The blue teen was scratching, getting a feeling for his suit. It fit well, though it looked tighter than his specs had called for. However, it did not limit his movement. As the boy was getting the feeling of this new suit, Shoko walked up to him. Her suit was a black shirt and pants with white boots. The black was accented by red stripes running up and down her sides. She wore a white waist-length jacket over everything. It had several pockets on it, probably holding hero supplies like Izuku, the boy thought. The letters AO were stitched onto the shoulders of the jacket. "Whoa, you look really cool, Shoka." The girl crossed her arms. "An ice pun, really?" "No pun intended. Just a happy accident. Though I am surprised you're wearing pants. I hope your suit might have a skirt. I may have the legs for it, but skirts are impractical on the battlefield. Last thing I need to worry about is which way the wind is blowing." Point taken. To return your pun, you look really hot. The boy smiled at the cool girl. "Aw, you're so sweet." Just then Uraraka came running up. "Hey, you guys look so good. Your costumes really suit you too. Though I wish I had been a little more detailed. This tight fit is not my style." It was true. Her pink and black suit was very form-fitting. The helmet made her look like the most girly astronaut in the history of the world. Tightness aside, the space theme really suits your power. You changed gravity, right? "Yeah, how did you know?" "I remember seeing you in action in the entrance exams." The boy pointed up. from the air. The girl nodded. Okay. Then a question popped into her mind. Hey, Midoriya, why no sleeves? Won't you get cold while flying? No, I don't get cold. He looked over at Shoka with a goofy grin on his face. Not often, anyway. My suit has no sleeves because I can absorb fire as well as create it. When I do, the fire gets pulled into my arms from here to here. He drew a line from his wrist to his shoulder. If I had sleeves, they would get incinerated when I did. Really? The brunette's eyes got wide with amazement. Shoka let out an annoyed breath. It's true. He went through dozens of shirts during training when he was younger. All Might called everyone to attention. Now that everyone is here, you will be split into teams of 2. One team will play the villains while the other plays the heroes. Sir, an armored boy said while raising his hand, since we will be in teams, does that mean we will have battle trials like the entrance exams? Izuku recognized the voice as Ida's. The boy thought his white armor looked really cool. That is a good guess, but no, I am moving you 2 steps ahead. Your battle trials took place outside, but most confrontations between heroes and villains take place indoors. Think about it, shady backrooms, sewers, and old warehouses. All places villains tend to congregate. The frog girl spoke up. Doesn't that seem kind of advanced? Maybe, but this is a situation you will find yourself in when you become a pro. Best to prepare for it now. The class all nodded in understanding. The large man pulled a piece of paper from the pocket of his Silver Age costume. Now, the villains will have a faux nuclear device. They will be given a 10-minute head start to hide their weapon. Once that is complete, the heroes will be lost to find them. The matches will last 15 minutes. The villains win if time runs out, or they capture the heroes. The hero team only wins if they take down the villains and capture the device. Izuku thought it sounded like the plot to an old action movie. Now let's choose the teams. Izuku was paired with a new girl, Aizawa. Shoka was teamed with a boy with extra limbs and wearing a face mask. Mizo Shoji was his name. Bakugo ended up with Ida. All Might then pulled 2 balls from a pair of vases to pick who faced who. Izuku's team was chosen to play the heroes, and Bakugo's team was to play the villains. All Might told Bakugo and Ida to go and hide their weapon. The boys did as instructed. In the meantime, Izuku thought it was a good idea to get to know his partner. So Aizawa, what is your power? Well, it is kind of hard to explain. Try me. The thin girl thought for a moment and then spoke. Well, it's called rewind. My power creates a type of energy that can revert biological life forms back to a younger state. Izuku was fascinated by this. So, are we talking a day, a year, a decade? According to measurements, I can remove 30 years from a healthy person's life. However, if the person's body is damaged or ill, it will take fewer years. And it's permanent. Yes, if I'm not careful, I could rewind someone out of existence. The girl got a sad look on her face as she said the words. Eri was concerned with sharing this information. Many people got scared of her when she mentioned her power. Many did not want to be near her. That is awesome. If I got injured right now, could you rewind me before the injury? Yes, but it only needs to be done on serious life-treating injuries. If I was to use it on sore and strained muscles after you worked out, it would revert your body back to the way it was before you did the hard workout. Thus, it would undo all your gains. I see. Any other weakness I need to know about? Duration? What do you mean? She pointed to her horn. This horn is the vessel for my power. My quirk stores up the energy over time, but the horn only grows so big. And once my power is exhausted, it takes time, about a week, to build back up. Also, the more grievous and life-threatening an injury, the more energy it takes to repair it. Good to know. So, does your power have any offensive abilities? Probably best not to rewind people. Not really. My power is more for repairing after a battle. But my dad, Mr. Aizawa, taught me to fight with these. She held up her wrist. She was wearing a pair of support items on her wrists. They looked like they shot something from them. What are those? They are high-tech restraining devices. They create a pair of metal whip-like tentacles. I can use them for mobility or offense. Well, that is good to know. I mean, Kakin can be annoying, but I don't want to turn him into a baby. Izuku took a moment to check out the girl's costume. It was pretty straightforward. Her costume was a red jacket with white accents, a red knee-length shirt, a pair of white leggings, and black boots and belt. The material had a thick look. It was probably a metamaterial designed to function like armor. Her capture bracelets almost disappeared into her jacket sleeves. Kakin, the loud blonde? Is he your friend? Yes, we grew up together. Anything I need to know? He's an amazing fighter. It won't be easy to beat him. However, I have a plan if you're game. The girl nodded in the cutest way possible. Izuku laid out his plan. It was a simple one. They would enter on the low floor and work their way up. More than likely Bakugo would make a beeline toward Izuku. While the blue teen held the walking grenade in place, Eri would go find the weapon. The girl was a great listener. She did not speak a word during the explanation. However, she did have one question. Why not just fly up and check the windows first? Wouldn't that be faster? I take it you watched the quirk assessment tests. The girl nodded her head. I was also in the control room during the entrance exam. Mr. Aizawa thought it would be a good idea for me to observe the students in my class beforehand. Makes sense. Even though I could check out the windows that way, it wouldn't be a good idea. I couldn't do it fast enough to not be seen. While I can't speak for Ida, not much gets past Kakin. Understood. At that moment, All Might made an announcement. Heroes, your test has begun. Good luck. The hero pair opened a window and climbed in. They made their way quickly down a dark hall. They knew they had a limited time, but they needed to be careful. The two didn't know if the place had been booby-trapped. Suddenly an explosion broke the uneasy silence. Firefly, come out and face me. Izuku looked down the hallway. As he expected, the bomb blonde had a furious look on his face and was creating explosions in his hands to get attention. The blue boy turned to his partner. Head back down the hallway and make your way up. I will handle him. She nodded and headed the other way. Izuku walked out into the hallway. He had a swagger to his step. I figured you would show yourself, Kakin. Defense has never been my style, Firefly. Both boys smiled at each other. They then nodded and charged. Bakugo delivered a strong right strike. Izuku caught it, and then delivered a powerful shoulder throw. Really, the strong right. I saw that coming from a mile away. Bakugo then got to his feet and blasted off the ground, using his explosions to maneuver around the hallway. He got behind his opponent and hit him with a mid-level explosion. Izuku gritted his teeth from the hit. How about that? Nice shot. Izuku saw that Kakin had been working on his maneuvering. He was faster than the last time they fought. Not surprising, he was his rival. Izuku knew he could hold nothing back. He rose into the air, his flight power active. He then ignited his fire. He was now surrounded by an aura of blue flame. A sinister smile played across Bakugo's face. That's it. I want your best. It will prove nothing if you hold back. Izuku rushed forward. Bakugo launched himself to intercept. Meanwhile, in the control room, All Might and the rest of 1A watched the match in awe. Everyone except Shoko was surprised. The icy girl had known both boys for a long time. She knew how strong they were. The dark-haired girl, Momo, was the first one to voice the amazement. Both of them are so powerful. They are moving through the air like it's nothing, and they are checking each other's attacks at every turn. All Might nodded. It's true. Both of them have amazing combat potential. Their quirks are powerful, but their control is very advanced for their age. Some pros never get this good. The two boys continued to clash. Mina Shido made an observation that the heroes' team was at a disadvantage, a big one. They only had 15 minutes to get the weapon and capture the villains. All Might pointed out he designed the exercise that way. Heroes are always a step or two behind. A real hero must work fast to keep people safe. Melissa came up to Shoka. I knew Izuku had a powerful fire quirk, but I didn't know he could fly. The others turned to listen in. Shoka explained it in a cool tone. I didn't find out he could do that until he was 10. The blonde girl nodded. That makes sense. We were 8 when I met him for the first time. but it doesn't look like he is using his fire to propel himself. He's not. The flight power is separate from his fire ability. His mother had a weak form of telekinesis. They figured the power inverted in Izuku. I see. So instead of moving other objects, he moves himself. Interesting. A rare but not unheard of presentation. The boy with the spiky red hair, Kirishima, was surprised to hear that. So, both of them can fly. That's so unfair. Shoka shook her head side to side. Izuku can, but Bakugo is using his explosion to move through the air. Momo nodded. To move like that would require complex calculations. Too much force and he would hit the wall. Not enough and he doesn't leave the ground. Impressive. Bakugo doesn't seem like it, but he's really intelligent. He actually developed that movement style to keep up with Aiza's flight. The other students were in awe. She didn't like Bakugo as a person, but she could admit, at least to herself, that he was ridiculously talented. All Might could see Endeavor was right about these two. They had what it took. However, they had much to learn. The tall man then shifted his eyes to another screen. There he saw Aizawa's daughter, making her way to the upper floors. Looking at her brought back the image of a frightened young girl covered in bandages. But he knew she wasn't that frightened little girl anymore. Let's see what you're made of, Eri, the number one said to himself. Back on the field, Izuku and Bakugo exchanged blows. One would launch a blue fireball, the other would counter with an explosion. This went on for several minutes. Neither seemed to get an advantage. Meanwhile, Eri had worked her way up the building. Finally, she had found Ida and the weapon. The armored boy stood in a room in front of the target. He was having a conversation with himself. While I am against evil, the only way for me to succeed in this exercise is to embody villainy. Suddenly the boy's voice changed, and he took a strange pose. I am a villain now. Fear me, heroes, for none of you stand a chance. Eri tried to stay serious, but the boy's overacting was too much. She broke, and a giggle escaped. I heard you, hero. The girl felt stupid, but his voice was just so comical. Well, she thought, no need to hide now. Eri emerged from the dark hallway into the room. Back in the fight, both boys were getting in their licks. The hallway was a wreck. They had actually broken into several rooms. But Izuku was getting the better of Bakugo. He just had the greater speed in the air. The blonde knew they were running out of time. If things kept going this way, he was done. He had to end this. He had an idea. Let's see how much punishment you can take. Firefly. Bakugo raised his arm. These gauntlets are for more than just looks. They store up my sweat. He pulled back the long handle and a pulpin emerged. At this point, All Might yelled over the mic. Young Bakugo, using a large-scale attack like that would be dangerous for both of you. You need to stop or I will end the match. Don't worry, All Might, Bakugo said with villainous rasp in his voice. He will be fine if he dodges. The bomb-handed youth pulled the pin, setting off a giant explosion. The hallway filled with fire and smoke. The blast waves tore through the walls and windows. As the smoke cleared, Bakugo went in for an attack, but Izuku was not there. Over here, the team turned to see. Suddenly, a powerful punch hit Bakugo in the chest. Blue flames erupted from the fist, sending Bakugo flying backward. Another hit followed to Bakugo's face. This rendered him unconscious. Izuku stood over his friend. His costume shirt was ripped and burned from the explosion, but he was otherwise unharmed. He wrapped Bakugo and captured him. He took the extra step of typing his mouth shut, just in case. As the boy turned to go find his partner, an alarm sounded. The hero team was victorious. That was quick. Izuku thought, Aizawa must have taken it right. Wonder how she did it. Will both teams please report to the control room for review? Bagwell lay on the ground unconscious. The robo-medics came to tend to him. Izuku waved them off and said he would take care of him. The blue-haired boy threw Bakugo over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes and headed to control room. Izuku ran into Ida and Eri. The young girl looked prepared. Is he all right? He's fine, just unconscious. Ida made several robotic motions with his arm. Good to hear. Why have you typed his mouth shut? It was for the best. Trust me. Both teams looked confused but decided not to argue. All three entered control room. Several of the girls came up there. They all told her how awesome she was. Izuku wondered what they were talking about. I see you're confused, young Midoriya. Watch this. The man played back a recording of Ares take down an island. She tried to capture him with her whips, but he was too fast. The girl then raised her hand, and he froze in place. She quickly wrapped him with her support items. They were a pair of wrist-mounted shooters that launched some type of quick-dry and capture ball. She then took control of the dummy weapon. Nice takedown. The boy looked at his partner. But how did you freeze it? I thought your power rewinded. It does, or it did. Eri then took a deep breath. You see, I found out my power normally works to rewind things. That is draining. It takes a lot of control and effort to do it right. However, I found I could use my power to freeze things in place. It only lasts a few seconds, and I haven't mastered the ability yet. But I had no choice. Ida was just too fast. Izuku nodded. I see. So it's like pressing pause and wait. Interesting. That could be really useful as a method of capture. The others agreed with that. All Might spoke then. An excellent point, young man. However, we need to do a full review, so that we will need to untie young Bakugo and wake him up. Sir, may I suggest we wake him first and untie him? Why is that? Just watch. Izuku hauled back and slapped Bakugo across the face. The sound was as loud as a whip crack. It left a red imprint across the blonde's face. When he came to it, he started screaming in a muffled voice. Everyone knew he was probably saying horrible things. Calm down, Kaku, and I will untie you. After a few more moments, the team quieted down and Izuku removed the tape. All Might cleared his throat. Now, can anyone tell me who the MVP of this match was? Momo stepped forward with her hand raised. Sir, the MVP of the exercise was Lieutenant Ida. Everyone gasped at this thing. Momo continued, while both Midoriya and Bakugo displayed amazing combat capabilities. They got too involved in their fight. Bakugo charged off Ida's partner to defend the bomb alone. At the same time, his use of such a massive explosion would put both heroes and villains in jeopardy. Midoriya, while he did defeat Bakugo, it took him far too long, and the damage they did to the building was extensive. Finally, while Aizawa was able to win the match, she exposed her position to the enemy, a mistake that could have been lethal. Tenya Ida was the only one who took the exercise seriously. He protected the weapon and prepared for the hero's counterattack. Ida got a massive swell of pride from the dark-haired girl's praise. All Might looked at the girl and thought, damn, she has a good eye on her. The mountain of the man cleared his throat. Whoa, I missed a few points. Like, Ida could have loosened up. But other than that, good job, congratulations. A true master starts with the basics. All the students were impressed by Momo's analysis. Izuku and Bakugo most of all. They both nodded at each other. They knew they had screwed up. If they were going to be heroes, they had to take their surroundings into consideration. This was not a game anymore. Once they graduated, lives would be on the line. All Might looked at the students. The first four saw their mistakes and were taking stock of them. Good. Showed that they understood how serious this is. However, he thought the damage to the building should have been far worse, but it looked like it was just minor smoke and burn damage. The minor fire damage is easily understood. Midoriya's files say he can absorb fire and heat and use it to power his attacks. He did that for his final blow. The concussive force is a problem. The pressure from a blast of that size should have left a giant hole in the building, but it didn't. The only explanation is that Bakugo must have contained the force of the explosion. But how? Plus, All Might, sir. Ashido looked up at the man with yellow and black eyes. Yes, Ashido. Should we start the next match? Right. The man chose the next group and sent the villains off.